Good morning class, Sairam. Today we will start our next chapter, that is atoms. Okay, and in this chapter the first topic we need to understand, that is Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. In this experiment basically we have one source of alpha particle, like here you can see, and that source is either you can take one radioactive element like bismuth 214, or you can take radon also. So from this alpha source, or from this source, alpha particle strikes a gold atom, thin gold foil. Okay, and we observe some results after this experiment, and these observations are shown in this diagram. This circle represents your gold atom, and many alpha particles are represented by these dots. Okay, and if we perform this bombarding of alpha particle, then we observe that most of the alpha particle passes away from this atom undeviatedly, like they go in a straight line, and a few alpha particle we observed that they got deviated from their path. Okay, and there were many rare alpha particle, or very few alpha particle, which actually turned back to its original path. Okay, like they made one deviation, you can say, that is 180 degree. Okay, so these observations are shown in this graph also, that you can see that at a starting, or first you understand, on the x-axis we have made a scattering angle. Okay, and on the y-axis we are representing number of alpha particle. So if your scattering angle is very less, say it is almost 0 degree. Okay, so you will see that number of alpha particles are very high, means maximum alpha particles are scattering at 0 degree angle. Okay, and those alpha particle are represented over here, these positions. They got undeviated, and their path is a straight line. So we can say that most of the space in atom is empty. Okay, most space in atom is considered to be empty, because only then these alpha particles pass undeviatedly. After that we observe that as soon as your scattering angle increases, like here, then alpha particles are very less. This value becomes very less, because you are increasing your scattering angle. Okay, so here you can understand. Second thing is that if we want to determine the distance of closest approach, okay, what will be the closest approach, or what will be the distance r0, that will be your closest distance that may be left when your alpha particle strike towards the center. Okay, or toward the center of the gold atom. Then we can understand in this way that your alpha particle has positive charge. So when it is going towards the gold nucleus, it is basically a gold nucleus, Au, and here we will have some positive charge that is represented by Jd. Then we know that when this alpha particle at starting, it has some kinetic energy, that's why it is going, but after some time there will be some repulsion force, okay, between these two particles. And suppose that closest distances are not, okay, and at this particular distance we can say that your kinetic energy of alpha particle, this kinetic energy becomes 0. Okay, and when this kinetic energy is 0, we can understand in this way that whole energy has been converted into potential energy. Okay, this kinetic energy has been converted in terms of electrical potential energy. So we know that between two charged particle, your electrostatic potential energy is given by k q1 q2 by r. Okay, so this is the value of k, that is 1/4 pi epsilon naught, and q1 q2, that is first charge nucleus of gold atom will have Jd charge, and charge of alpha particle is 2e. Okay, remember Z is your atomic number, and E is charge of 1 proton. So it will become 2Jd square upon r0, and here this will be half mu square, where u is initial velocity of alpha particle. From here you can determine this r0, that is the distance of the closest approach. This r0 will become the 1/4 pi epsilon naught 2Jd square upon this term, half mu square. This term will be shifted to the denominator part. Okay, after that we have composition of nucleus. Here we need to understand what is the composition of nucleus. Remember, we are considering both chapter together, that is atom and nucleus. So in this chapter we will talk about atom as well as nucleus both. So next thing is that what is the composition of nucleus. So remember, every atomic nucleus except that of hydrogen has two types of particle, that is proton and neutron. Okay, in hydrogen we know that there is only one proton. So nucleus of the hydrogen atom contains only one proton, we already know, and proton is a fundamental particle with positive charge this much, that is 1.6 10 to the power minus 19, and mass of the proton is 1.67 10 to the power minus 27 kg. This you already know. Now if we talk about neutron, then neutron is also a fundamental particle and it has no charge, you know it, and its mass will be 1.675 10 to the power minus 27 kg. Next thing we have atomic number. How atomic number is defined? Actually it is the number of proton in a nucleus. Okay, any element can be represented in this way, like here we write Z and here we write A. So this Z is called your atomic number. Then we have atomic mass number, that is represented by A. Okay, this one. And this atomic mass number is nothing, you know it, that it is sum of proton plus neutron, and proton is represented by Z atomic number, so we can write it Z plus N. Here you can see that A is written as Z plus N, where Z will be number of proton and N will be your number of neutron. Next thing we need to understand, that is atomic mass unit, AMU. Okay, so AMU stands for atomic mass unit, and it is defined as 1/12 of the mass of the one atom of carbon. We know that for 1 mole of carbon atom will have mass equal to 12 gram. Okay, so if we are talking about 12 gram, okay, first of all we will divide it by 12 so that we will get 1 gram, and here we will divide it by Avogadro number, that is Na. Okay, because this 12 gram is nothing but basically mass of 1 mole. Okay, so and in 1 mole we have these many molecule or these many atoms. Okay, so AMU is defined as 1/12 of the mass of the one atom of the carbon. So we will divide it by 12 first. Okay, and then after solving this we will get this number, that is AMU, 1 AMU equal to 1.66 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. After that we have, that is size of nucleus. Okay, so understand what is size of nucleus. Nucleus doesn't have a sharp or a well-defined boundary. However, the radius of nucleus can be given by the following formula. Okay, now understand this formula, R equal to R naught a raised to the power 1/3. By experimental study we can say that the radius of nuclei can be given by this expression, where this R naught is a constant. Okay, this is constant for all nuclei and its value is 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 5 meter. And A is what? We already have defined this A, that is mass number. So if we want to calculate radius of nucleus, okay, or volume of nucleus, so how we can calculate volume? We know that for volume we have formula, that is 4/3 pi r/q. For spherical region, for sphere we have volume, that is 4/3 pi r/q. Okay, and this will become 4/3 of pi r/q, and r is nothing but r/q into a raised to the power 1/3. So we will replace this value. From here we can say that volume is directly proportional to mass number. Okay, and practically it is found that radius of nucleus has a range from 1 Fermi meter to 10 Fermi meter. After that we have nucleus density. How to calculate nucleus density? Suppose mass of any particular nucleus is A AMU. Okay, we have considered any general element, general nuclei, and you know it is represented by ZXA. So we have considered its mass equal to A, and it is in AMU, that's why we will multiply by this factor. Okay, this will convert it into kg. Now volume is defined as 4/3 of pi r/q. okay, and r is r naught into a raised to the power 1 by 3, but we have here power 3, so this 1 by 3 will be cancelled out, and here we will get only rq into a, and this will be 4 by 3 and pi into rq. R is 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 15 whole power 3, okay, and after that we will get this value, because a to a will be cancelled out, okay. This value is how much? 7.24 10 to the power minus 45 a meter cube. This is volume, but if we will divide this mass, that is this much, then this a and this a will be cancelled out, so we will get our density, that is 2.29 10 to the power 17 kg per meter cube, okay. After that we can conclude some points, that the nuclear density does not depends upon the mass number, okay, because that is cancelled out in derivation. So all the nuclei possess the nearly same density. All nuclei will have same density. Second point is what? Second point says that nuclear density is not uniform, okay. Nucleus is not uniform throughout, so it has maximum value at the center and decreases gradually as we move away from the center of the nucleus. All these are experimental data. So third point is what? That is the nuclear radius is the distance from the center of the nucleus at which the density of the nucleus matter decreases to 1/2 of its maximum value, okay, from center of nucleus to up to that point where its density becomes half. That distance will be considered as radius. After that we have one relation, that is relation between mass and energy. So we know that by Einstein theory we can say there is some relation between mass and energy, okay. Mass can be converted in equivalent energy by this relation, and that relation is what? E equal to delta m c square, okay, where delta m is your mass defect. This is called what? This is called mass defect or loss in mass, and this mass is basically converted in form of energy. In next slide we will understand how this is converted into energy. So first here we understand what is the formula for mass defect, or how this mass defect is calculated. It is the difference basically between the rest mass of the nucleus and the sum of the masses of the nucleons composing a nucleus is known as mass defect. First of all, we know that every nuclei is made up of proton plus neutron, okay. So we will calculate first sum of masses of their constituent particles, that is proton and neutron, okay. Then we will measure whole mass of the nuclei, and we will see what is the difference between them. Like here you can see, if we have Z number of proton and one proton has mass mp, okay, then we will multiply it by Z and we will get total mass of all proton, okay. Similarly, to calculate mass of neutron, what we have to do? First we will subtract this Z from A, that means we are getting some number of neutron, okay, and number of neutron multiply by Mn. Mn is what? That is mass of one neutron. So by this method we can calculate mass of nuclei or all components, okay, that is proton and neutron, mass of their component, and we will subtract mass m, that is mass of whole nuclei. So this is known as mass defect. This mass defect itself will provide us some kind of energy, that is called binding energy, okay. So here it is defined that binding energy is what? It is the energy required to break up a nucleus into its constituent parts, okay, and place them at an infinite distance from one another. So if you want to break a nuclei, and suppose if you break this, and then the energy required to break a nuclei and keep these particles apart from each other, that is proton and neutron, apart at infinite distance, so that there is no force, no nuclear force between them, then this amount of energy is called your binding energy, and it is given by delta m c square. Next we have nuclear forces. So it is also found practically that there are some kind of nuclear forces that acts between proton and neutron, and it acts between two neutron particle as well, okay, and inside the nucleus. That's why it is called nuclear forces, and these are one kind of attraction forces. That's why we can say that our nucleus is stable, because there are some many number of proton. They will have some electrostatic repulsion also, but just nuclear attraction force keeps them together. So they can be explained by Mason's theory. Okay, in Mason's theory, it is considered that there are three kinds of mesons, like positive pi mesons, negative pi mesons, and neutral pi mesons. Positive pi mesons and negative pi mesons are what? They are 273 times heavier than electron, and pi naught, that is neutral meson, is 264 times heavier than an electron. Basically, these proton and neutron keeps converting into each other. Okay, proton converts into neutron and neutrons into proton. This assumptions or this theory was given by scientist Mason. Okay, and these particles are released during those reactions. So nucleons, that is proton and neutron, are surrounded by mesons. Next we have about radioactivity. Remember, radioactivity has been removed for this year from your syllabus. So we will have some important point only. Like, what is the radioactivity and its unit? Its unit is known as Curie. Okay, and it is represented by Ci. And the activity of a radioactive substance is said to be 1 Curie if it undergoes 3.7 into 10 to the power 10 disintegration per second. In this way, this is defined, 1 Curie is defined, that is 3.7 into 10 to the power 10 disintegrations per second. Okay, or you can say 1 Rutherford equal to 10 to the power 6 disintegrations per second. Basically, Curie and this Rutherford, these are units of defining radioactive activity. Okay, that how many disintegrations or how many breakups are there in 1 second. Next we have Becquerel. Becquerel is what? The activity of a radioactive substance is said to be 1 Becquerel. Again, this is unit of what? Unit of activity, radioactive activity. And 1 Becquerel if 1 disintegration per second occurs. Means 1 Becquerel is what? That is 1 disintegration per second. So activity means what? That is a particular nuclei is breaking up into an non-stable nuclei and releasing some constituent particles. Okay, that may be pi particles, alpha particles, or beta particles, etc. However, remember that these pi are not a stable particle. They are just intermediate product between proton and neutron. But in nuclei disintegration, we can say that alpha plus and alpha minus, similarly beta plus and beta minus, such particles are released. Okay, that portion has been removed from your syllabus, so we are just looking on the basic terms here. Okay, next we have nuclear fission. What is nuclear fission? So nuclear fission is defined as a type of nuclear disintegration in which a heavy nucleus splits up into two nuclei of comparable size. Like we have a radioactive element, that is uranium-235. So what happens if we generally bombard neutron particles on uranium-235, then it converts into uranium-236, okay, intermediate product, and after that it again break up into these 3 particles like barium and krypton, okay, and it gives 3 neutron plus lots of energy, that is having range of 200 mega electron volt. This much energy we get. So that's why we call that in nuclear fission we get a huge amount of energy. Then we have next thing, that is chain reaction. Basically your one neutron is attacking to the uranium atom or uranium radioactive element, and it is basically giving you 3 basic particles. Okay, and similarly here you can see this green color is representing uranium and this pink color is your barium, okay, 1 atom, and along with that you are getting krypton. Okay, like you learned in the previous equation that one uranium will give you one barium and krypton. And now further these three neutrons are free to react. Okay, now remember that this reactant, that is uranium-235, we have basically a lot of amount of uranium-235. So again these three neutrons are available for attacking to the reactant. If you have more amount of fusion material, then they will again attack on uranium-235, and in this way it will give you so many number of product. Okay, so this is called a chain reaction. Here you can understand that from one reaction you are getting these many products. Okay, and an uncontrolled energy you are getting. So just remember, this yellow particle is representing your one neutron particle that is attacking on uranium, and basically it is giving you barium and plus krypton. Okay, plus these three neutron particle. And again now these three neutron particle are available to react. So this is again uranium, and this first yellow particle will attack to the first uranium, and second yellow particle again attack uranium, and third yellow particle. So again we will have three reactions over here, and again we will get barium, one element as a product, then over here krypton, and three neutron particle we are getting. Each time we will get three neutron particle, one barium particle, and this blue color means one krypton particle. Okay, the basic reaction is given over here, that from one uranium atom you are getting one barium and one krypton. Then we have next reaction, that is called nuclear fusion. So you can read this, that nuclear fusion is defined as a type of nuclear reaction in which two lighter nuclei merge together into one another. Okay, and they form a heavier nucleus, and they release a very large amount of energy also. Like you can say one alpha particle, one proton plus one proton, they are combining together and they are making one heavier nucleon. Basically in sun you can see that this is the cause of a lot of amount of energy, or a source of energy, because nuclear fusion reaction takes place there. And one H1 and one H2, these are two lighter nuclei, they will combine together and they will make 2 He3. Basically this is heavier nuclei, and 5.5 mega electron volt energy is released. So similarly 2 He3 and 2 He3, again they will make 2 He4, and 12.9 mega electron volt energy will be released. So this is energy source of a star also. And here we have carbon nitrogen cycle, and in this cycle basically what we have, that is carbon atom is reacting with one H1 and that proton, and after that we are getting what? We are getting a nitrogen atom and gamma particles, that is gamma rays basically, and that has very large amount of energy. Similarly you can see, you can note it down, all these reactions in which one gamma radiation we are getting, that is having a lot of amount of energy, and it is useful for converting of one particular isotope into the another form, or one form of atom to the other form of atom. Okay, so this is all for today. Thank you. Sai Ram.